Alright, so I've been waiting for this game for quite a while. Today we're going to talk about Wild Hearts. And my first overall impressions of this Monster Hunter-like game, which takes heavy inspiration from Monster Hunter. I would say Monster Hunter World specifically, heavy inspiration. Now, we've gotten a lot of Monster Hunter-inspired games, from games like Tokiden, which is also from Koei Tecmo, or Tokaiden, or whatever, Freedom Wars, God Eater, even Soul Sacrifice. And the difference between those games, well, there isn't much because none of them were actual competition for Monster Hunter. So there's that. But this game feels different. I feel like Wild Hearts could legit be competition for Monster Hunter. Like, possibly. Not saying it's gonna take over as the alpha of the hunting genre, the action hunting genre, but I do think it might be second place to Monster Hunter if Koei Tecmo and EA actually stick to their guns with this project. Some people will think I'm crazy for saying this, but I do think it could get to that point because this game is doing a lot of things right, to be honest. So before we even get into anything else, let's just talk graphics really quickly. The game is honestly on par with Monster Hunter World. Honestly, it's you can tell it's an Eastern developed game because the character models mostly have the most detail here, while the environment is hit or miss in some areas. Also, I don't know if it's my build or what, but even though I have the texture quality at high, it still seems like some of the environmental textures are kind of muddy still, or low res. So I'm not sure if that's some kind of bug or if that's just the game itself, but you know, the game is pretty in certain areas, but it's not next gen at all, really. So yeah, there's that. But outside of that, this game has character. I really like the characters so far, and the voice acting in English is really good. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this game. This game actually feels good to play. So there are 8 weapon types. It's not 14 like Monster Hunter, but Monster Hunter didn't come out the gate with 14 weapon types. So I am not going to hold that against this game at all. That would actually be unfair. There is building in this game, and yes, it might remind people of Fortnite. And the building is basically called Karakuri. Yeah. There's a story explanation as to why you can do this. It's not just like shoehorned into the game, precisely, but yeah. There's like a big ass skill tree with things you can build, upgrades for things you can build. You can even build a mirror to change your character's appearance for free. You can even change your name. Like, come on, Capcom. Come on. But yeah, I actually really like the building in this game, actually. It's not super complicated, and it weaves into a lot of your combos very easily and simplistically. So, it's not something that's going to become overly redundant over time. This is actually a pretty solid system. And you can give, like, your world character by building things in it. I like that. Combat does feel good in this game, but one thing I don't like so far is honestly how the gather button is L2. Like, along with the sprint button being R1, you can also tap in L3 to sprint, but the R1 button has priority because it lets you do other things while holding down the R1 button while sprinting. So having L2 as basically collecting items is a little awkward to me. Like, I don't know if I like that very much. You might be able to change the buttons though, which I haven't fully checked that out yet, but yeah. But combat in this game, I actually really like it. Like, I wouldn't say it's as deep as Monster Hunter weapons per se, but the weapons do have their own depth, but not as much as something like Monster Hunter. And I think a lot of people need to understand that Monster Hunter has kind of been around for a long time. So yeah, and as someone who's been playing Monster Hunter for about 10 years now. Playing this game makes me feel like I'm playing Monster Hunter again for the first time. A lot of the new monsters I fight for the first time absolutely kick my shin in. Like, and it feels really good. The weapon I've used the most is katana, which is kind of ironic because, like, I don't even use longsword like that in Monster Hunter anymore. Like, you know, I know, like, it's a joke in the community that it's the weeb weapon, and it kind of is, but this is more of a weeby game, right? Like, if you want to look at the setting and just call it weeb, then yeah, so that works. But I like the longsword. I think it's perfectly balanced as a beginner weapon. This is like the sword and shield of the game, basically. Weaving and building into your attacks, like I said before, is super satisfying, and there's so much you can do with it. And each weapon usually has special combos that weave into the building as well. So yeah, and I feel like I've only seen like half of it, because the skill tree for Karakuri is like really long, and I expect a bit more in patches. I know they're talking about like no microtransactions and a lot of things being free. I'm not gonna say I don't believe them. I'm just gonna say I feel like something's gonna be paid down the line. Maybe a paid DLC expansion. Considering they're taking heavy inspiration from Monster Hunter World, I see that happening while everything else being free. Which, you know, that makes sense. Like, new monsters are gonna be free and all that stuff. New armor is gonna be free, but what's going to be paid is an obvious a big expansion, pretty much. Like, I'm expecting that for sure, especially if this game does commercially well or really well in general. I expect that. Also, I do really like the finishing blow animation for this game, and also that incorporates into basically your quest reward screen, which is actually really cool, and it never really gets old to me, at least not yet. I'll let y'all know if it starts to get old, but I really like it. So this game also has a training dummy, again taking inspiration from World, and it shows. And it seems like when you pull out any weapon you're using, it gives you like a short tutorial of all the basic combos you can do with your weapon. And also later on, I found out that yes, in the main town you go to, or the main city or village, whatever you want to call it, you're able to train with up to 2 other people. So, or basically 2 other people who can be in a lobby in town with you, and you could also train together, which is nice. Now, what I don't really like about this is you can't lock on to the training bear. So maybe they can patch that in, maybe, because, you know, why not? So I know everyone's wondering, what is armor like in this game? And to be honest, it's very, very Monster Hunter. It's very familiar. So most armor sets have skills on them, and you can mix and match armor sets. So it's very, very similar to World, to be honest. Each armor has a base defense, which you can't seem to upgrade, but when you do get to the main village, you'll find out that there's basically alpha and beta versions of most sets, and they tend to have more defense values. There also does seem to be layered armor or transmog here. I guess you unlock it at a later time though, but it's there. As for the weapon trees, again, this is also very similar to World. As in, like, each weapon, like, there's a single skill tree for like each weapon type, and that you're able to basically go down the tree. It's a little complex. You're also able to carry over certain skills you get from different parts of a tree, so you can basically customize your weapon throughout the skill tree. And you're not really limited. You can always make a new weapon and go down a different path in the one skill tree for each weapon type. So I think this is actually pretty cool, and maybe if this game gets a sequel, they can expand on this even more. So yeah, this is actually, like I said, this is the closest thing to another Monster Hunter game we have at this point. So yeah, bada bing bada boom, there is my first impressions of Wild Hearts. And I was provided a code from EA and I will be playing the hell out of this game. We'll be making content, all sorts of content, maybe even fashion, who knows. But I want to play more of this game because it's looking really good. And yeah, if you enjoyed the content, consider subbing to the channel, especially if you like Moss Hunter and if you want to get Wild Hearts. I'll keep you guys updated on what content is coming. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.